Hey, Super Dave here. Thank you for joining me for another edition of No BS Reactions, where I take a little bit of time to expose myself to music that I don't already know, just to expand my boundaries and see what else I can find out there. I like to explore, I like to discover new things, and one of the things I discovered fairly recently was Meshuggah. And that was a band that I had admittedly neglected for a while in terms of my listening because of the fact that I don't think I fully understood what they were, and as I slowly became aware of their influence on progressive rock, modern progressive rock, and progressive metal, I decided, maybe it's about time I give these guys a listen and figure out what they're all about. Let's see if there's something there for me to enjoy. So I've listened to a few songs already, and this is one that I'm listening to by suggestion of, I believe it might be Saeed of Reach 7385. Not sure where the words stop and start and all that, so I could be wrong about that. Forgive me if I've mangled it. But that was a suggestion I got from them, and the song is Straws Pulled at Random. Now, this is a version of it that I picked at random, semi-random. At least I knew it was definitely from their YouTube channel, and it's the version from the re-release of Nothing. So what difference that is between the original release and the re-release, damned if I know. It probably may not matter a whole lot, or maybe it matters a lot. Either way, this is the one I'm listening to. This is the one I picked, because picking it semi at random, 50-50 shot, seems to make sense in the context of the title of the song. At least it does in my twisted little brain. So that's what we're going to be checking out this time around here and see what it's all about. And buckle up. That song just absolutely pummels you with the riffs and the rhythms. Following it all is rather difficult. Trying to find, for me, the through line, the time signature is something. Now, it's not something I'm great at doing, but just trying to figure out exactly what all is happening here between the drums and the guitars is almost a little overwhelming. I think the one thing that is consistent with it, that I've seen is consistent with other Meshuggah songs, is there's enough of that rhythm to encourage the headbanging. I don't do a lot of headbanging myself. Somebody called me out on that. No, it's just not a thing I do that much. Mostly, too, because when I'm looking at these or listening to these, I'm reading the lyrics at the same time. And the lyrics here are, like a lot of their lyrics, very, very much poetic in many ways. It maybe in my mind, I don't know what it would like to be trying to phrase these in a more melodic sense that goes with, typical singing in a song. But the lyrics to me present in a way that they would defy that just a little bit. They would be exceedingly challenging to sing in a more rhythmic way. And maybe in some ways it's, unless I'm not picking up on a rhythm somewhere in the phrasing of the screaming that he's doing, the growling, whether or not that would work out just fine as well as it would be if it were sung in a more traditional way. but they're deep and cryptic lyrics that are very challenging. The whole song in and of itself, I can imagine musicians themselves being finding this really, really fascinating and challenging to play. I'm a musician wannabe, so I don't really know exactly how challenging this is, but it sounds exceedingly challenging to me, especially because, as I've understood as well, that their drummer, Thomas Hockey, probably, I think is how it's pronounced, tends to play at a different time signature than the guitars are playing at, which blows my mind that that's even a thing that happens. May not happen in every song, but it's a cacophony, if I could pull out a vocabulary word there, of stuff going on, and yet it is, very much it finds its groove and goes there. Again, these guys, I think, influenced the prog community in the sense of their composition and the complexity and the things that they're doing there in terms of pioneering djent versus the more traditionally progressive things that people associate with those kinds of bands, with a lot of different time signature changes and tone changes and tempo changes and all these movements and like the song with all these sections and all this stuff. These guys don't do that. These guys sort of fit more in a similar vein with Tool, where they find a groove and they pretty much stick with that. The groove in and of itself is not simplistic at all. So, and of course the lyrics are not. Still trying to figure out exactly what he's talking about, other than not feeling to be the master of his fate and feeling at the mercy of the world, and not being able to be in control of his life. But it's with so much going on at once, it's hard for me to process the words and the music simultaneously. I don't got time for headbanging too. That's just the way it is. So anyway, all right, let me continue here with this song, get back to being pummeled by the guitars.
Come back into the origin vortex, uprooted down to dust. We dragged it into the existence of manuscript polarity. Denied the self-control of fate, with those suspended in the life. Until the other in an empty when oblivion clears of breath. Nowhere indefinitely, not dead, not alive. Existence penetrates the symmetry as will and fight divine. Am I a beast that has a fight? Am I alone for another day? Must I
I'm really digging the change up here. Remember, I was saying just a little while ago, everybody always has to disprove me the minute I say something, but the tendency for them to find a groove and stick with it. This tempo change here is very cool, and I'm digging it. It gives you a little bit of a breather, a little bit of break from being boom, 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 pounded, and just gives something slightly more, almost borderline ambient, because it's very, very, it's rather slow in the tempo. There's not a lot of notes going on, but the rhythm is still pretty much there and pounding. So I really wouldn't truly call it ambient. It's more like a bit of a pounding but slower rhythm over top of a bit of an ambient background. There was also something going on really low in the mix, which is probably this same guitar that we kind of hear carrying the primary musical motif at the moment. That with just a little bit of like a flourish, a fill, but it was very, very, very much buried in the mix. It was very, even with headphones on, hard for me to hear. I thought it was cool, though. I liked it. It added a little bit of extra touch to the overall musical presentation that they've had happening at that moment. But this change of pace here, to me, is very cool. I don't even know how else to say it, other than the fact that I'm enjoying it a little bit more maybe than the main musical melody or motif. And maybe because it's just a little bit more on the melodic side, a little easier to follow. And maybe that's just working for my brain right about now. You'll have to pardon me. I'm still working through the back end of a head cold here. So I have a mucus-filled brain that may or may not be functioning fully. TMI? Maybe. Okay, so I really like how that song ended. Actually, it's probably my favorite part of the song because of the somewhat, I'd almost call it mellow, not quite melodicism, but pretty close to that. The guitar solo was tasty. It wasn't too much. It was very restrained compared, especially when you think about the rest of the song in that context, that the level of restraint involved there, and they just put in there, but it was nice. But it's weird, and I don't know if there's anybody else out there that would agree, but there was the chord progressions I was hearing at that point in time honestly had me thinking of early mid 80s, 80 to 85 Rush. And maybe that's what I was enjoying about it. Something in the style, something in the technique, or something about it, maybe the production, I'm not sure which, honestly was putting me in mind of Rush from that period of time. And I imagine that's likely an unconscious thing on their part, Meshuggah's part, of course. But I don't know. If anybody else out there is listening and or watching it and heard the same thing, let me know. Am I crazy? Am I way off base here, or is there something to that? Is it my imagination? Maybe it is. I don't know. So that's a song of two halves. You get pummeled in the first half, and then things get kind of chill in the back half. I like them both, but in terms of my overall taste, I like that back half best of the two. A little bit better than the other one. The other one I can admire primarily and be impressed by. And it may be one of those things where repeat listenings allow it to sink in because there's so much. That's sometimes the problem with progressive work, whether it's rock or metal, that oftentimes there is so much happening at once that it's hard to take it all in. And my brain wants to try and take it all in at the same time. And it's only in the repeat listenings where things start to settle down a little bit and I can hear the various parts more clearly and enjoy it more. So somewhere along the line, not only sitting here doing a reaction, it probably is worth my time to listen a little bit more to Meshuggah to get the ability to hear more of it and enjoy all of it rather than trying to do it on this first flyover. Because honestly, a lot of this is hard to do in the first flyover. So, all right, very cool. Thank you for that suggestion. Saeed of Reach, that's what I'm saying for now, 7385. I have to look back because I can't remember the number at the end. Anyway, appreciate your time watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope you'll give me a like and maybe subscribe to the channel. You can follow along with the other things I'm doing if you'd be so kind. I'd also encourage you to check out my interviews with the top artists of progressive rock and metal out there on Bleeding Edge Interviews. You can find the podcast wherever you get podcasts. You can also check out my social media. The links are below and in the channel description, as well as the link to The Expanse, my live 365 station that is playing all progressive rock and metal all the time. So if you do that, you might enjoy that. So thank you very much. Super Dave here telling you to don't be afraid to deviate from the norm. Keep it proggy. This is Super Dave signing off.